welcome back to Pathology Basics by Dr. Garima. We will take a quick video on paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, and my main aim is to cover the concept of flow cytometry, right? We will also cover how flow cytometry can be used in the diagnosis of PNH and how you can actually evaluate a dot plot or a flow cytometry graph, right? Now let's look at this point first, that what is PNH? It is the only hemolytic anemia caused by acquired intrinsic defect in the cell membrane. So always remember, it is an intrinsic defect in cell membrane, yes, and it is acquired, right? Mutations in PIGA gene are required for the synthesis of GPI linked proteins. Now what are these GPI linked proteins? These are certain set of proteins which protects your cells from the complement mediated lysis. That means if these proteins were not there, then your complement activation will consistently take place and will lead to lysis of your cells like RBCs, WBCs, platelets. Now let's concentrate on these RBCs. If there is repeated activation of complement proteins, there will be RBC breakdown and we can say there will be hemolysis. So hemolysis is a very important component of PNH, right? Now, which are required for inactivating the complement, and if not present, they will lead to increased complement activation and thus increased hemolysis. Important GPI linked proteins you have to remember are decay accelerating factor or CD55, membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis, or CD59. Now how will you remember which is more important, CD55 or 59? So at least I remember with the name that 59 is a larger number, so CD59 is much more important, right? It is in fact the most important GPI linked proteins, which normally has a function to inhibit C3 convertase and thus protects your RBCs from the complement mediated lysis. Another one is C8 binding protein. So remember, decay accelerating factor or CD55, membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis or CD59, and then C8 binding protein. Now next, it is a stem cell defect, right? And it has got many important complications like aplastic anemia and MDS. So these are very important complications asked frequently, that what other complications can be there in PNH, aplastic anemia and MDS. Now remember, pancytopenia because there is stem cell defect and there is lysis of all the cells, hemolysis because of complement mediated lysis, and thrombosis due to deficiency of other GPI linked proteins such as urokinase plasminogen activator, which has a role in fibrinolysis, and thus their deficiency, due to deficiency of the GPI linked proteins, it is increased risk of thrombosis. In fact, most common cause of death in case of PNH is due to thrombosis, and more precisely if I say, the most common cause of death in PNH patients is Budd-Chiari syndrome. Okay, so this is also a very frequently asked question, right? So clear, pancytopenia, hemolysis, thrombosis. Another GPI linked protein you should remember is leukocyte alkaline phosphatase, which is again deficient because these GPI linked proteins are deficient. So lab score is low. If you remember, another disease which has got a low lab associated is CML. So CML and PNH are two important conditions associated with low lab score. In PNH, there is deficiency of GPI linked proteins, and this lab is also a GPI linked protein, and thus lab score is low in PNH. Now let's move to this curve. Just understand that if I divide my graph into 4 quadrants, suppose 1, right, 2, okay, I will make 2 this, and 3, 4. So just understand this is the outermost quadrant, and if you remember your normal XY graph, something which is positive for X axis will be here, right? If something is here, that means it is almost negative for the X axis. Similarly, something which is positive for Y axis will be somewhat here. If something is here, that will be negative for Y axis. Same plot I am using. I am saying if it is the outermost quadrant, it will be positive for both X axis and Y axis marker, that is positive for both CD55 and CD59. So it is double positive quadrant, right? If I look at this quadrant, you just remember something which is present here will be positive for this marker and negative for this. So one will be positive here, one will be negative. If I look at this number 4 quadrant, it will be positive for a marker present on Y axis but negative for a marker present on X axis. So it is again one positive, one negative. If I look at this, it will be negative for both. So this is the double negative quadrant. Using the same information, I can tell you, using the same information we can easily confirm that yes, if I am talking about this population and I see that all the population is present in the outermost quadrant, right, that means it is double positive. this population of cells I am talking about is positive for both CD55 and CD59. I told you in normal RBCs CD59 and CD55 are normally present, which are GPI linked proteins, and thus protect your cell or RBCs from complement mediated hemolysis. That means this graph shows the normal control population, right? This graph shows me the normal control population, double positive, positive for my both complement mediated protectant CD55 and CD59. And which one is more important? I told you 59 is a larger number, so remember CD59 or MERL, membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis, has got the most important effect in protection of your RBCs from the complement mediated lysis. Now look at this graph, right? If you can actually clearly have a view, if you can have a clear view, just look at this part, right? This is a small population, this is a small population present in the outermost quadrant, that is double positive quadrant. So yes, some population of cells are positive for CD55 and CD59, but the major population, if you look for, is present in the innermost quadrant, which is your double negative quadrant. Double negative quadrant means negative for both CD55 and CD59, or I can say negative for both the markers present on the x and the y axis. So if I say a large population of cells is lacking CD55 and CD59, and if you remember, these are the markers, if absent, will indicate a disease called as PNH. So I can make a diagnosis of PNH looking at this graph. Looking at this graph, I can say that this population of cells is deficient in the complement protection proteins or GPI linked proteins, and thus this graph shows me PNH with dual population. Can you see dual population, population number 1 and population number 2? This population number 1, few of the RBCs are present in the outermost double positive quadrant, whereas my major population is negative for both the markers. So this dual population with few cells representing the normal and the major population representing the deficiency of these CD55 and CD59 is the very important diagnostic marker in case of flow cytometry. So flow cytometry is the gold standard for the diagnosis of PNH, where I can depict a large population of cells present in the double negative or in the quadrant, which shows me negativity of both the important markers on the surface, right? That means CD55 and CD59, which are normally present on the surface of your RBCs, because CD markers are your surface markers. So these are normally present, but if not present in your RBC surface, will indicate certain pathogenesis, which is what? Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. I hope this graph in this dot plot is very clear. If it is not clear, then please write in the comment section so I can make a clearer video along with other examples, right? I will make a separate video on flow cytometry, but till that time I thought maybe this video can at least get you a quick bit into how to plot, how to get an information about the dot plot graph, right? So intravascular hemolysis occurs in, so if you remember the basics, you can remember in hereditary spherocytosis there is more of extravascular hemolysis, because these spherocytes, when are passing through the splenic sinusoids, will undergo hemolysis, and the hemolysis which is occurring within the splenic sinusoids, right? Most common site of extravascular hemolysis is spleen, so that will be a extravascular hemolysis. Let's look at G6PD deficiency. Here there will be intravascular hemolysis because of this enzyme deficiency. Next, sickle cell and thalassemia again will lead to more of extravascular hemolysis, because these cells, when will be passing through the spleen, again will undergo lysis. PNH is another important example where occurs intravascular lysis. So the question was intravascular hemolysis occurs in, multiple answers correct. The correct answer is acute G6PD deficiency and PNH, right? Just understand the concept that where this lysis is occurring, whether within the splenic sinusoids or inside the blood vessels, and you can be very clear with it. PNH is primarily intravascular. Why? Because there is complement mediated lysis which normally occurs inside the vessels due to absence of these GPI linked protective action of your GPI linked proteins against the complement activation. So more complement activation, more lysis, and is occurring inside the blood vessels, and I can say it is intravascular, right? PNH is due to defect of, I told you, CD55, 59, right, and CL binding protein. Important one is CD59 or membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis. Clear? CD59. Next, PNH associated with somatic mutation affecting, right? Affecting, if you have to choose one, I have to choose GPI linked apparatus or GPI linked protein. So answer will be GPI, right? So there will be symptoms of intravascular hemolysis, I already told you. And why there is nocturnal hemolysis? Probably due to pH changes due to carbon dioxide retention at night, which will lead to increased complement activation, right? And in the morning, the first thing the patient notices is hemoglobinuria, right, because of intravascular hemolysis, and thus there is the name given, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Does it occur only at night? No, it occurs throughout the day, but there is increased propensity towards an hemolysis at night due to carbon dioxide retention, pH changes, and thus complement activation.